Hello. So welcome to the video of autosomal recessive. So we have already talked about autosomal dominant in a previous video. So in this video, we just talk about autosomal recessive mode of inheritance. And just like in the previous video, we have multiple criteria that we should look into in order to say that, okay, this is likely to be autosomal dominant, right? And in this case, we also have criteria. Yeah, not too surprised. And let's just see what these criteria are. So the first one is that the trait have equal chance to be expressed in males and females for the similar reason that we have explored in autosomal dominance case, because males and females have 22 pairs of autosomes, right? It's equal chance. They have the exact same number of autosomes, whereas in sex-linked case, females have 2 X chromosomes, whereas males have X and Y chromosome, right? So there's an unequal balance of chromosomes there. Therefore, it will affect the chance of the offsprings having the trait of concern because they are present on the X chromosome or they're only present on the Y chromosome. But we'll explore that in a little bit more in detail. But we have already explored why the trait of concern, if it's autosomal in general, they would have equal chance to be in males and females in the previous video, right? So let's just write that down anyways. So the trait of alright, sweet. Number two is that the trait can and usually skip generations. And we'll look into why this is the case later. Number 3, if both parents have the trait, then the offspring must have the trait. Awesome, so that's it. So let's just draw a pedigree as per usual, a really general and simple one, just to illustrate these criteria and why these criteria are the case. Let's just say that is our pedigree, and let's just say this is affected, and let's just leave it like that, right? And let's just draw another one. Oops, that's a bad square. So these two are typical pedigrees in which they show autosomal recessive mode of inheritance. And let's just see why. So again, let's just say our trait of concern is eye color, right? More specifically, we are concerned about green eye color and let's just say blue eye color. And let's just say that green is dominant and blue is recessive. So we'll donate capital G as green and lowercase b for blue. No, let's just say lowercase g for blue because we want to keep it consistent, the letters for each, because they're talking about the same gene, right? So if the individuals are affected, and here we're talking about autosomal recessive, therefore they must have the recessive allele for our trait of concern. So in this case, the affected individuals would have blue eye color. So the only genotype in which these affected individuals could have is lowercase g and lowercase g, like so, right? Because if they have a capital G, then they would not have blue eye color, and they would not be affected as they won't have the allele. They would not have the trait of concern because the dominant allele overrides the recessive allele, and I'm assuming that you know that. So the other in the other cases, these parents are unaffected, so they could have such genotype combination or such genotype combination. Same thing for the mother. It could be capital G lowercase g or capital G lowercase g, right? Oops, or capital G. But when you think about it, there's only one possible scenario in which these parents could have, and let's examine which these are the case. So if just say that the father is capital G, and the mother is capital G as well, and we know that the offsprings, two of them, or 50% of the offsprings are affected, that means that they have lowercase g alleles, both of them. These two genotype combination of the parents cannot produce lowercase g, right? It's impossible. If I'm going to write the Punnett square results out, they're all capital G's, right? So you cannot produce these two offsprings. Therefore, the parents cannot have capital G alleles. Both of them, they cannot. Right? So let's explore another example. So let's just explore the other scenario. Capital G, lowercase g. Capital G, lowercase g. Let's assume that both parents are heterozygous. So we're going to draw the Punnett square results out. We can see, yes, it is possible for the offsprings to have lowercase g and lowercase g alleles, aka they're affected with blue eye color, right? So it's possible. Oops, whoa. So it's possible that if the parents are both heterozygous, that they can produce offsprings with blue eye color. The first scenario is that one parent having a capital G genotype, and the other parent having a capital G lowercase g genotype. So let's just draw that out. Capital G lowercase g. So if we write out the Punnett square outcomes, we can see that all of the offsprings will have green eye color because there's a dominant capital G allele present. Therefore, it's impossible to create offsprings with blue eye color. Therefore, the only possible combination is that both parents are heterozygous, aka they have a capital G allele and a lowercase g allele. And notice that since these two parents are unaffected, it's impossible for them to have lowercase g allele combination. So from here, we can conclude that both parents is capital G, lowercase g, lowercase g. So let's have a look at criterion number 2, is that a trait can usually skip a generation. Well, we can see that this is the case, right? Because in this generation, aka let's just say this is the parental generation, aka P1, and this is the first generation, aka F1, then we can see that the trait of concern skipped the generation, right? Because this generation is unaffected, does not have affected individuals in this generation. And these two unaffected individuals produced affected individuals. Therefore, it skipped a generation, right? And this is possible, and it's usually the case for autosomal recessive traits. And in the third scenario, we said that if both parents have the trait, then the offsprings must have the trait. So this is basically this example. So in this case, both parents are affected, and all the offsprings must have the trait. So let's just see why. So these two parents are affected, therefore they must have lowercase g alleles, right? They have they have blue eye color, therefore they must have lowercase g and lowercase g. And these two are affected, therefore they have lowercase g as well. If we do the crossing, Punnett square crossing, or monohybrid crossing, because we're only dealing with one gene here, then we can see that this makes sense. Right? All of the offsprings can only have little g genotype, which is this case, and therefore all of the offspring, or 100% of the offsprings, must be affected. And in the exam, don't be lazy. So don't be lazy like me right now. So you must draw the Punnett square with closed, what do you call it? Closed edges. In this case, it's not really closed, as you can see, right? And the square is not actually a square, but you get the point, right? You need to close off your Punnett square. And don't do it like that. Draw it neatly, because you might actually lose marks like this. So yeah, in this case, we can see that it skipped a generation because these parents are carriers, so they are not affected, but they carry the affected, or the allele of our trait of concern, right? Allele responsible for our trait of concern. So therefore, they skip a generation because they're carriers, and carriers are possible for autosomal recessive, and carriers are not possible for autosomal dominant, because the carriers would actually be affected in the case of autosomal dominant, because the dominant allele would override the recessive allele. So yeah, so that's it. In the next video, we will talk about X-linked dominant. So see you in the next video.